For most of human history, people worked when the sun rose and slept when it fell. Their minds were slow, their bodies tired, their thoughts clouded by alcohol, because in medieval Europe, beer was safer than water. And then, a single drink changed everything. It didn't just wake people up. It rewired civilization. It sparked revolutions, funded empires, built stock markets, and turned sleepy agricultural societies into 24-hour innovation machines. This is the story of how coffee, a bitter seed from Ethiopia, became the drug that built the modern world. The legend begins in the Ethiopian highlands around the 9th century. A goat herder named Kaldi noticed his animals acting strangely, jumping, dancing, refusing to sleep after eating red berries from a certain bush. Curious, he tried the berries himself. And for the first time in human history, someone felt what we now call a caffeine high. Local monks heard about this discovery. They began boiling the berries into a drink to stay awake during long night prayers. Coffee wasn't recreational. It was spiritual, a tool to commune with God without falling asleep. But this drink didn't stay hidden in monasteries for long. By the 15th century, coffee had crossed the Red Sea into Yemen, and that's when everything changed. The Yemeni port city of Mocha became the first global coffee hub. Merchants from across the Islamic world discovered this strange new beverage. It spread through Mecca, Cairo, Damascus, Istanbul. And unlike alcohol, which Islam forbade, coffee was legal, social, and incredibly addictive. But here's the key. Coffee didn't just wake people up. It brought them together. By the 1500s, coffee houses exploded across the Ottoman Empire. They became the first true public spaces where men from all classes could gather, debate, argue, and exchange ideas. Scholars called them schools of the wise. Politicians feared them as breeding grounds for rebellion, and they were right to be afraid, because coffee didn't just caffeinate minds, it made them dangerous. In 1511, the governor of Mecca tried to ban coffee. He believed coffee houses were centers of conspiracy, where men plotted against the government. The ban lasted only weeks before being overturned. The public outrage was too intense. This pattern repeated across the Islamic world. Rulers tried to control coffee, and they failed. Every time. Why? Because once people tasted intellectual freedom, they refused to give it up. By the early 1600s, European travelers began bringing coffee back from the Ottoman lands. Venetian merchants were the first to import it, but Europeans didn't know what to make of it. Some called it the bitter invention of Satan. Priests demanded it be banned. They argued that because Muslims drank it, Christians should not. Then, in 1600, Pope Clement VIII was asked to officially condemn coffee as an evil Muslim drink. He took a sip, paused, and said something history would never forget. This devil's drink is so delicious. It would be a shame to let only the infidels drink it. We should cheat the devil by baptizing it. Coffee was now Christian, and Europe would never be the same. The first European coffee house opened in Venice in 1645, then Oxford in 1650, then London in 1652. Within decades, coffee houses became the nerve centers of European intellectual life. But unlike Ottoman coffee houses, which were social and political, European coffee houses became something far more revolutionary. They became idea factories. In London, coffee houses became known as penny universities, because for the price of a penny and a cup of coffee, anyone could sit and listen to the greatest minds of the age debate science, philosophy, politics, and finance. Isaac Newton discussed gravity in coffee houses. Astronomers shared discoveries. Merchants negotiated deals. Writers debated literature. And here's the part most people don't realize. The Enlightenment didn't happen in universities. It happened in coffee houses. Think about it. Before coffee, Europeans drank beer and wine all day. Their minds were foggy, their conversations slow. Coffee replaced alcohol. And suddenly, Europe was awake, sharp, focused, argumentative, curious. This wasn't just a beverage shift. It was a cognitive revolution. But coffee houses didn't just host intellectuals. They hosted something even more powerful: businessmen. In 1688, a man named Edward Lloyd opened a coffee house in London near the docks. Sailors, merchants, and ship captains gathered there to exchange news about voyages, cargoes, and storms. Lloyd began posting shipping information on the walls. Merchants started insuring each other's ships over coffee. Underwriters wrote policies on scraps of paper at coffee-stained tables. And from that single coffee house, Lloyd's of London was born, the most famous insurance market in the world. But it didn't stop there. Another coffee house, Jonathan's Coffee House, became the center of stock trading in London. Merchants bought and sold shares of companies over coffee. No formal exchange existed yet, just men, coffee, and handwritten contracts. In 1773, those same traders formalized their system and created the London Stock Exchange. Yes, the stock market was born in a coffee house. Across the Atlantic, the same pattern emerged. In Boston, the Green Dragon Coffee House became the meeting place for revolutionaries. Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, and John Hancock planned the American Revolution over coffee. In New York, the Tontine Coffee House became the birthplace of the New York Stock Exchange in 1792. Every major financial institution in the Western world traces its roots back to coffee. Because coffee didn't just wake people up. It made them think faster, work longer, collaborate better. Coffee was the productivity drug that capitalism needed to exist. But by the late 1600s, Europe had a problem. They were addicted to coffee, and all of it came from Yemen and the Ottoman Empire. This was unacceptable. European powers wanted control. They wanted their own supply. So they did what empires always do. They stole it. The Dutch were first. In the 1690s, they smuggled coffee plants out of Yemen and planted them in Java, Indonesia. Within decades, Java became one of the largest coffee producers in the world. The French followed. They smuggled a single coffee plant to the Caribbean island of Martinique in 1720. From that one plant, millions of coffee trees spread across the Caribbean and South America. And the British? They turned Ceylon, modern-day Sri Lanka, into a coffee empire. But there was a dark side to this expansion, a side most people never talk about. Coffee plantations required enormous amounts of labor, and European powers had a solution: slavery. Millions of enslaved Africans were forced to work on coffee plantations in Brazil, the Caribbean, and Central America. The coffee you drank in a London coffee house was harvested by someone in chains. This is the uncomfortable truth. The modern world was built on coffee, and coffee was built on slavery. By the 1800s, coffee had become one of the most traded commodities on Earth, second only to oil. And the global economy was now structured around its supply chains. But the story doesn't end there, because coffee didn't just fuel empires. It fueled something even bigger. The Industrial Revolution began in Britain in the late 1700s. Factories ran day and night. Machines never slept, and neither could the workers. Coal powered the engines, but coffee powered the people. Factory owners realized something simple but profound. Workers on coffee worked longer, faster, and complained less. Coffee breaks became standard, not because employers cared about their workers, but because caffeinated workers were more productive. This is where the 9-to-5 workday begins. Before coffee, people worked when they felt like it. After coffee, they could be disciplined into rigid schedules. Fast forward to today. Silicon Valley runs on coffee. Startups measure productivity in cups per day. Every major tech company offers free, unlimited coffee. Why? Because the same logic applies. Caffeine makes people work longer without realizing how exhausted they are. Coffee didn't just fuel the Industrial Revolution. It fuels every revolution since: digital, financial, technological. But here's the deeper question. Did coffee create the modern world, or did it trap us inside it? Today, coffee is the second most traded commodity on Earth after crude oil. Over 2.25 billion cups are consumed every day. It's a $100 billion global industry. Countries like Brazil, Vietnam, and Colombia have entire economies built around it. Millions of farmers depend on it for survival. Millions of workers depend on it to stay awake. And here's the irony. Most people who drink coffee have no idea how much power it holds over their lives. Modern financial markets don't sleep. Traders in New York stay awake while Tokyo closes. London opens before Wall Street wakes up. The global economy runs 24/7, and coffee is the fuel that keeps it moving. Without coffee, the modern world would collapse. Not because machines would stop, but because the people running them would. The Ottoman coffee houses of 1550 look different from a Starbucks in 2025, but the function is identical. People gather, they exchange ideas, they make deals, they work, they think. Coffee is still doing what it's always done, making humans more efficient, more productive, more dependent. And let's not pretend this is innocent. Coffee is a drug, a legal, socially acceptable, economically essential drug. We don't call it addiction. We call it routine. We don't call it dependency. We call it productivity. But strip away the language, and the truth is simple. Modern civilization runs on a stimulant that most people can't function without. So here's the story in full. A goat herder in Ethiopia discovered a strange berry. Monks used it to pray longer. The Ottomans turned it into a social revolution. Europeans turned it into an intellectual revolution. Businessmen turned it into a financial revolution. And empires turned it into a global industry built on slavery. Today, coffee is so deeply embedded in our world that we can't imagine life without it. But that's the trick, isn't it? We think we chose coffee, but maybe coffee chose us. Maybe the modern world wasn't built by humans who happened to drink coffee. Maybe it was built by coffee, and we're just the labor force keeping the system running. Temples once controlled grain. Empires once controlled spices. Corporations once controlled oil. Today, coffee controls us. And the most successful drug in human history isn't cocaine, nicotine, or alcohol. It's the one we don't even recognize as a drug. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it'll crush you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.